Feel the fear and do it anyway. This is a powerful truth that I want to talk about today, and this truth is essentially going to transform your life more than most things. So you've got to understand the emotion fear and what it actually does. I mean, every emotion you feel is serving some kind of higher good, right? So fear biologically was a response that was triggered because something in your life wasn't going well. There was some sort of threat that could have impacted your survival negatively. You know, obviously if you were being chased by a tiger in the savannah, you'd experience fear, because if that tiger catches you, it's going to rip you to pieces and that'll be the end of your story. So basically, fear is a very valid emotion. Then anxiety can come in after that, because obviously then you're worried that a tiger is going to jump out at you next time you walk through that part of the savannah. That's just how fear works. It's a very powerful and a very important emotion. But what I'm going to explain today is that sometimes you have to ignore fear and push through it. Sometimes you've got to be comfortable with doing things that are scary. Like in that same instance, sure, you can think you're being attacked by a tiger in the savannah and you're going to feel fear. But you also realize that, you know, there was people hunting like the woolly mammoth and all these other huge creatures, and obviously a human doing that would have been terrified. You know, they're risking their life to take that animal down, and that animal could easily kill them. So they're afraid, but they're doing it anyway. So as a man, you need to learn how to feel fear, but to push through fear. Something that people were very good at. You imagine men running into war, running into a battle zone. Most of those men are going to be absolutely terrified, but they're still doing it nonetheless. Nonetheless, they're still protecting their families and they're putting their lives at risk. So being able to push through fear is an extremely important part of masculinity. It's an extremely important part of being a man. And it's something that most guys today really suck at. I mean, we live in a world where most men couldn't go skydiving. Most men can't ask a girl out. Most men can't even chase their dreams. Most men can't even say no to their parents or someone who's forcing them down a path they don't want to go down. So we have a long way to go. So you need to become one of those outlier guys that can face their fears, that can do things that they're uncomfortable with, because that'll make your life better in so many ways. So today I want to talk about dating, and I want to talk about business, or about making money, right? So let's start with business and making money. If you want to start a business, if you want to go down some path, the number one thing that cripples people isn't trying and failing, but it's fear. Most people are afraid, or they're too comfortable, or they're worried about what their friends will say about them, or what their family will say about them, so on and so on, if they take the leap to start that business. So at the end of the day, they're going to be feeling some kind of fear, some kind of anxiety, because they're taking a leap. They're doing something and taking a chance, and that chance might not pay off. They might be rejected, their business might fail, they might be judged or criticized by people around them. So as a result, they let the fear cripple them. They let the fear stop them from growing and stopping them from becoming who they want to become. And that's going to have a massive impact on your life. If you let fear control you, you're never going to grow. You're not going to move in the ways that you want to move. You're never going to be able to become the person that you want to be, because the second life gets scary, you hide away from it. You don't have the courage to push into getting what you actually want. And if you don't have that courage to push into it, guaranteed it's never going to happen. Seriously, I know so many people that this absolutely destroys their potential in so many ways. And they have so many limiting beliefs and flawed values in their own minds, and they're labeling themselves as being afraid of this and afraid of this, and it becomes a part of their personality. They can never push through it. It's insane. Now let's talk about relationships. A lot of men can't even go and ask a girl out. This is crazy. Like apparently we're talking like 80-90% of men can't go and talk to a girl they like. They get scared. Okay, biological reasons for this. Obviously the business, if it fails biologically, it's because if you don't have money, resources, so on, life gets difficult, you could die, you could be kicked out of your tribe, so on. Now, asking women, like I've talked about in previous videos, the reason you're afraid of doing that is because historically we lived in little tribes. Probably the biggest tribes were about 200 people. If you asked a girl out in that tribe and you were rejected, then basically the gossip got around, everyone knows that girl rejected you, and that lowers your value, which means you might not be able to reproduce. You might not be able to ever have children. That's where the fear comes from. You need to understand that today that's not the case as millions of women. So you've got that fear. It's a biological, like OBW, which is obsolete biological wiring. You've got that stuff inside of you. So what you need to do is you need to go and talk to girls and push through the fear to be uncomfortable. And if you do it over and over and over again, maybe the first 10 times you do it, you're absolutely terrified. Then the 11th time, you're not quite as terrified. And the 20th time, you're sort of getting okay at it. Then the 50th time, it starts to feel more normal. Then the 100th time, it's just sort of like, you got a little bit of anxiety, but it's not much. You know, there's so many things that it stops people doing. How many relationships do you think have not happened because a guy's seen a beautiful girl and he's never had the courage to go talk to her? Just imagine how many relationships that has prevented from happening. It is absolutely insane. So the levels of fear are ridiculous. And it's always existed. I mean, people have always been afraid. There's always been fear. It's an emotion. What has to change is your relationship to that emotion. And currently, we live in a society where survival is very easy. And because survival is very easy, men are very weak. And a lot of men, they, instead of, when that fear comes up, that little wall of fear, whether that's building a business, asking out a girl, whatever else, some sort of sport, some sort of activity, traveling by themselves, whatever it is they want to do but can't do, that fear stops them. And instead of being uncomfortable and pushing through, they hide away. They get scared and they run away, right? So you need to not be one of these guys. You need to be able to face that fear and push through it, to move through it, to be okay with that anxiety and that fear and that stress. And even though you're feeling all those feelings, you're not being controlled by them. You can still walk through them. And that's powerful. That's going to show so much confidence in whatever you do. If you can walk through something you're afraid of, that's going to show so much confidence. It's going to do so much to your character, your own inner confidence as well, that you're going to become an absolutely beast. It's insane. And it's something that people really just struggle with. I mean, I've got so many people in my life who are never going to get what they want. No offense to them, but they're never going to get what they want because they're too afraid to go and get it. They're too afraid to go and look for it in different areas of their lives. They just don't have it. It's very rare you meet a man these days who's able to walk through their fear, who's able to be afraid of something but push through it anyway. And I explain this as a teacher. When I'm teaching students, I use this all the time. It's like, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to feel all these things. But I explain to them, especially as they get a bit older, it's very powerful if you can push through and do it anyway. If you're afraid of sitting an exam and you have the confidence to sit there and take it, that's awesome. If you feel like anxious about playing a sport, but you give it a go, that's awesome. And whenever a kid does do this, whenever they push through, one, they feel fantastic because they push through it, but two, I make sure to congratulate them. I make sure to let them know how good a job they did. Really powerful for kids, really powerful for adults. The thing is, a lot of kids don't push through their fears, so they grow up as adults who are timid and they can't do it either. Like, the number one way to overcome your fears is to face them. The number one way to not be afraid of something is to expose yourself to it enough times to where it no longer becomes scary. And you've got to understand the difference between real fear, like real dangerous situations, and just like silly fear. Like asking out a girl, there's no worst case scenario. No one's going to come and kill you. No one's going to come and rob you or anything. You know, nothing seriously bad's going to happen to you despite a little bit of a hit to your ego if she says no. That's it. That's the worst case scenario. Maybe the worst case scenario is she like abuses you and yells at you and says some bad stuff to you and you feel bad. That's about it. When you compare that to something that's really, really dangerous, like say heli skiing, you know, jumping out of a helicopter going skiing, that's probably terrifying, but if you're not trained to do it, then it's probably also stupid because you could kill yourself. So you got to look at fear like that. It's a very powerful emotion. You've got to understand that if like your fear is valid, if the worst case scenario of you doing something is going to end really tragically, or if it's just some trivial little thing, like there's some bit of self-esteem or anxiety or something within you that makes you not want to do something that you know is going to improve you. Yeah, fear stops so many people. Like the number one thing that prevents people from living the lives they want to live is fear. So I hope you can work towards overcoming it. If you gained some value, give the video a like, comment, share it with someone who's afraid of things, because there's a lot of people that need to hear this sort of tough love advice. And yeah, apart from that, peace out and enjoy the rest of your day. Go and do something that scares you. Challenge yourself.